So where does it all begin? And for me, I believe that faith comes in and rides with the soul, and we are gifted that. You can do what you like with it. There are many choices around how we live in faith. And I feel also that as part of our journey here through this element of giving birth, it is really a gift that needs to be cultivated and nourished. And I'll explain a little bit why I feel that way. For me, faith is a way, there's an attribute to faith that allows me access to this invisible world where I can take like possession of things I cannot see. I look at faith sort of the flip side of gratitude. Usually we're in thankfulness for things that have already manifested, but I believe faith puts it in a place of appreciating things that are yet to come. And I look at my faith, to explain it a little more clearly, as arrows in a quiver. And if I'm launching that arrow of prayer or whatever dream or wish in the pureness of heart, without the doubt that may make it wobble, without the fear that weighs it down, that trajectory is pure. And when faith is behind the arrow that you launch, the miracles happen and your life becomes richer than you could ever imagine. And I learned a lesson in my adult life when I had the knowing that that arrow that I launched was true. And it involved the death of a dog who was leaving the body as a very old dog. And I knew the time was there. There was not a lot of sadness around it. The dog had had a beautiful life. And I lived on a farm, and I put the dog on a blanket and I dragged it around. It was a beautiful spring day. And I just wanted the dog to experience the land and to have rest there. And the dog sort of started becoming agitated. And I just remember kneeling in prayer. And this prayer was on behalf of something else. There was no selfish desire. There was a pureness of heart for my merciful God to not bring pain to this end of life. And by the end of the day, the dog had transitioned with the sun setting in grace. And I felt for the very first time the pureness of what I needed to be to create that arrow of just answered prayer. But I realize now that it really was the dog giving me that gift. It wasn't me like, oh, look what I did for this dog. It was really, okay, here is a signature of what faith looks like. So we have many arrows in our quiver, and there's a part of faith that I think has an aspect of manifesting, so that we as beings can realize the impossible. The little bit of faith can move mountains. All these little sayings on faith are really based in a real world where those things can happen. Because we live more in a place where we think everything's impossible. And you know, that's really a self-fulfilling prophecy, because boy, that does happen in life. So I encourage you to find faith in something and to practice faith. I believe faith is a practice that we can get really good at. And when we find that place of practice, we live in bliss. And all of these things come onto us in our lives. And that's what we're here for. We're here to do that work so that our soul can leave the body more elevated. And I think faith has a frequency, and when we tune into it, we attract different things, different people in our lives, and experiences that are rich. And the old saying about the great leap of faith, I feel the largest leap we're going to make is when we transition out of this body. And I pray and hope that my faith carries me into a place where the last breath I take, all the arrows, infinite arrows, are launched into that universe, so that when my soul takes the journey again, the little gift of faith I may have in this lifetime, a seed, I'm hoping that it's a forest with so many trees that I come into the next birth with, so that I keep growing that place, so that one day I don't have to take another body, and I find the bliss and the hope that we all have in that eternal peace with our Creator. God bless you. Thank you.
Okay. These pictures that you see on the wall here, if you haven't been here before, look around the sides of the room. Those faces, those are people, many founders or people that are much loved and appreciated in different world religions. And they have, most all of them, I don't know, probably all have one thing in common. And that is that they found a way in their lives to actually merge with God. And Yogaville is a place that people, I think a lot of us originally came here with the full intent to merge with God in this lifetime. It seemed like if you're going to have one thing, you pick the highest thing and you go for it. That's the way it seemed to me in 1973. And I think that a lot of people here came here with that idea. That's what they're going to do with their lives. And I think that everybody is still believing that enlightenment is a real thing. I mean, is God realization the purpose of human life, or is it just a place you can go with this mind body? And or is there a purpose? And so everybody's like, oh well, missed that opportunity. And so I came up and I came in the hall, and most all the time they have somebody reading Gurdjieff's stuff at lunch. But this day they had a tape of Gurdjieff going. And I walked in and he goes, is the purpose of human life enlightenment? I was like, oh, cool. And he said, this is the only place you can have that experience. So that's a really interesting answer. I don't know. I mean, I wish I could just explain that to you, but I can't. But he said this is the only place that you can have that experience. So there must be billions of planets with conscious beings on them, and there may be Are they humans? There may be purposes to life with a soul that aren't that. But here is the only place you can have that. So you take it from there. So another thing that most of these people that you see on the wall that were able to merge with God have in common is that the path that they were on, I think all religions really, if you dig around in there, you can find this. They're trying to get past the obstacle to merging with God. And I think the obstacle to merging with God, or one big one, let's say, is called the ego. You know, they're like opinions. Everybody has one. And the ego, I heard this speaker named Adyashanti say, the ego has a purpose, and it's called toolbox mind. And toolbox mind is like, how do I drive the car well? How do I wash the dishes clean? How do I keep from falling off of that cliff? It's like just a pure, clean help for the soul, mind, body to get through this Maya safe and well. But the ego has a god-awful, for most people, me, I'll start with me, for my ego, has a god-awful case of mission creep. It, has become like a sort of a petty tyrant inside your head. I don't know about other people, but maybe you have like a little voice inside your head. Am I sounding crazy now? Do you have like a little voice inside your head that's always going, oh, that person doesn't like me? I bet I could get this cheaper somewhere else if I just talk to that person. It's just a constant rap in there. And that's your ego. And it's like the really bad assistant. If you're, say, this is my business, and I get an assistant to help me out, and they're supposed to take phone calls and give me messages. But pretty soon they decide they want to run the office, and it'd be nice if I would just stay in the back room. And so they start like editing the messages to suit themselves, stuff like that. And pretty soon they're running the show, which is the story of the ego. So what can you do about that creature? And I once went on a long meditation retreat, and it was Vipassana. And I didn't know what I was getting into. 10 days of meditating 11 hours a day. I quit sleeping, It wasn't exactly fun. But somewhere in there was a separation between me, exactly what Sri Gurudev was talking about. There's the little you that works in this level, and then there's a bigger you that works in a different level. And somewhere in there, I realized that voice box that was just driving me crazy 11 hours a day was not me. Simple as that. That wasn't me. That was something else. That was a really great moment for me. And not like it changed everything, but it was great to see that for a minute. And so I don't know how we can get past it, but one way that I think works for me, well, the integral yoga ways that I relate to, there's integral yoga is like, could be a lot of things to a lot of different people. Whatever sort of person you are, you can find a path here at Yogaville that will get you on your way to where you need to go personally, because everybody's path is a little bit different. We're all individuals. We're like snowflakes falling down together from the heavens. And each one of us is an individual, and we start in heaven and we're falling and we land in the snow and merge with that, and then we're gone. But on the way down, like Hamsananda is a snowflake and I'm a snowflake and Karuna's a snowflake, and we think, well, I can turn myself this way and I can slide over here, or I could turn myself this way and I can slide over here, or wow, it looks really cool with those beautiful snowflakes over there. Maybe I'll turn myself this way and go over there. And you think that that is free will, because really, you could say that you're driving yourself over here, over here, over here, but really the breeze is blowing you. And what is the breeze? God. And the power to turn yourself to float over where you want to float is also God. And the snow that you're made out of is also God. And the substance that you're floating down in is also God. So I don't know where that leaves free will, but there's some things that I think it feels good to feel like you have free will, and I mean, feeling good is usually a good direction to go. And if you want to accomplish something, and you, well, wait, I wrote it down here somewhere. How I wanted to say that. What is it? Life is more fun if you try as hard as you can without any attachment to the result of your actions. That's the most fun. Trying 100% and not caring about the result. That's just pure fun. I used to wonder what fun was when I was in my 20s. Like, what is fun? Oh, wow, you know what fun is? No, not really, but that is fun. Putting out 100%, but not being attached to the result. Fun. And it's a positive way to be successful in this world. But behind that way of thinking, which you can use and do good in the world, it's a kind of a karma yoga thing. If you follow that path and you do good in the world, that's good. But I think it's important, as Gurudev said, to remember that it's all God, and we're just like God's jukebox or something. He pushes a button, we play a tune. So, oh yeah, here's the other part. The path of faith in God is what we're talking about, but there's also surrender to God. So that's the active end of that path. It's not like you think you're doing things when you have faith in God, but you have to actually surrender yourself to God. And what does that mean in plain English? To me, that means, well, I'll just talk about me. This is because everybody's different, but this is me, how I look at it. I hand myself over to God out loud. Well, you know what? Let me go back, and I'll come back to that point. What is God? That's like the whole thing is around that. It's like, what is God? I mean, for a lot of people, God is something that they can imagine. Everybody has their own version of God, and God is something that they can imagine. Like my Aunt Mary Ellen, who my mother's sister, lived on a farm in Maryland. For her, God was Jesus. And she had 100% faith in Jesus her whole life. It never wavered. It never broke. Her daddy, my mother, my grandfather was a preacher, and that was all she needed to know. And when that woman died, left the body, I mean, the Tibetan masters would have been jealous. She knew where she was going. She was going straight out of this world into Lord Jesus' hand, not a single shred of doubt. She was happy to go. She'd probably been waiting to go. And she just slid right out of this world smooth as silk. And that's faith. That's her faith, that powerful faith that allowed her to have such a smooth and beautiful transition. For me, it's not so easy personally, because I mean, you just have to think what you think and be who you are. I can't imagine, maybe I'm selling myself short, but I can't imagine that anything I could come up with this would be God. So what I do is I just talk to nothing. I don't ever try to conceptualize God in any way, shape, or form. I mean, maybe an infinite ocean of light or something, but it's not anything that has it's just, I never even put any label on it. I'm talking to God a lot, but it's not to anything that I'm imagining in my mind. So I know that's weird, but it works for me. So what you do is when you're talking to God, you hand yourself over. You say, God, come into me, take me over, run me, do whatever you want with me, make me do things. I don't even go there. Well, sometimes I do. Make me do something good, but I don't, like Gerda was saying, don't ever talk to God that way. Like, please give me this or make me do something good. It's like God has got it. God has got your back. You just have to give yourself up. And somewhere in there, what gets given up? The ego gets given up. And the ego is terrified of being given up, because it's got a big, strong sense of survival. So I don't know. If you're meditating and you're having like really low vibration thoughts, and then you sort of get a quiet mind and you start having higher vibration thoughts, the voice box immediately, or maybe this is just me, it immediately jumps to some ethereal channel to interrupt you. I don't know. Maybe that's probably only me. But yeah, it's a sneaky thing, and it's hard to get around. And if you never think of yourself, if you use the mantra, it's not about me, if you live your life to serve other people, and every breath you use to bring some joy or beauty or happiness to anybody who's around you, and you surrender fully to God, and you never believe for 1 second that you're doing anything on your own. I'm not saying I can do that, okay, by the way, but if that is the path right there, and as I see it. So, the final thing I have to say is, so merging with God or living in unbroken, selfless love of everything, or maintaining a conscious state of awareness that doesn't leave the present moment, have faith that at any moment that could be your reality. God bless you.
Thank you. These two are just about my favorite people in the world. And who knew what they were going to say? You didn't know, I didn't know, and they didn't know what each one was going to say. We made that agreement weeks ago that let's do that. We won't tell the other one what we're going to say. We didn't know what Gurudev would say. We didn't know what we would each say. Every soul is so unique. And these two are very unique. I love you both. And what can I say that would be as interesting? It's not up to us, is it? Many years ago, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 20 years ago, and Gurudev said to me once, your only prayer should be, God, you do what you want. I couldn't make that prayer. About a year ago, I made the prayer. It was awful, though, so I took it back. That, I think, is the hardest prayer that I could make. But that's what we're all here for. That's what we're all here for. You talk about surrender. That is the hardest thing to do in my life. Because I have a good idea of how everything should go. Probably we all do. If I was president of the United States, there wouldn't be any problems. If I was president of the ashram, we wouldn't have any problems. The only problem is I'm not the president. Well, where do I get those thoughts? And how many lifetimes have we each spent getting to the point where we are now? And what do you want? What do you want to do with this life that still could be accomplished? What is it? There are people in this room who are doing wonderful, wonderful things for the planet. We know about you. What can I do? Well, what am I here for? And there are many things that others are doing that I can't do, but there's a job for me. There's a job for you. And maybe you haven't done your job yet. Maybe I haven't yet. And I don't even need to know what it is. You just wake up and I'm ready to do whatever comes before me. There's a story. There was a shepherd in a rural area, and a traveler came to the shepherd and he said, "What kind of weather do you think we'll be having today?" And the shepherd said, "Oh, I think it will be weather that I like." And the traveler said, "How can you be sure it will be weather that you like?" And the shepherd said, "Well, a long time ago I figured out I had no control over what the weather was going to be, but my peace was more important than anything. So I decided, in order to keep my peace, I was going to like whatever the weather was." That's how I know today it's going to be weather that I really like. We may not have any control over what comes to us from outside, but we can have control over one thing that happens when it happens. Our attitude toward what happens when it happens. That we can do something about. I can train my mind. I'm training my mind all the time. Something happens, this is God's will, let me accept it. What do you say when something happens? Just have faith. Identify with the true self. Those are my two go-tos. Something happens, love and light. That's all I know. I wish you love and light. The craziest things happened on this planet this time. When did they not? Which period of history was it not crazy? Crazy things happening. Love and light, that's all I know. I'm putting my faith in God, that's all I know. So that's all I can do. You take care of it. Who is God? I must have known. I must have known, but maybe I've forgotten. And why not give it a try? Well, I don't know if there's God. Oh, God, I don't like to use that word so much. I don't know what all this prayer, and you come to Yogaville and everybody's talking about God every 5 minutes. What is God? Who is God anyway? Well, don't you want to find out? Because what choice do you have? Some lifetime or other, we'll all get to that point, to the God realization, and it's to be experienced. So we don't have to do anything to today, maybe if I play my cards right, maybe it'll be today. That doesn't matter to me, but God, you take care of this person. They're too much for me. You take care of this world situation. There's nothing, what can I do? Jesus couldn't save the world as hard as he tried, as great a saint and God realized master as that is, and all of these. Some I know of, some I don't still, but they all have experienced that, and that's for us also. So, okay, I don't know. Those people were terrific tonight, so let me try. Nobody needs to see me because I'm feeling a little strange here. Is anyone listening? Is anyone out there? Please help me to know in something I can see or something I can hear, some experience that I know you're there, whoever or whatever you are. Gurudev said, God is waiting to come to you in any form that you favor. He could be wearing a suit, boot, and hat. What do you want God to be like? Doesn't matter. Put your faith in something. That's what I'll do today. I'm just going to put my faith in God. I don't know what that means, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pretend. This is what I said in the beginning of my practice. So when was that? 1972? Today I'm going to pretend everyone who speaks to me, everything that comes to me from outside is God speaking to me. And if it is, I used to say, and if it is, what is he trying to tell me? I say he. All these here, the great ones who came before. And it's not that they're gone somewhere. Yeah, they're gone somewhere, but they could be right in this room. They're as close as your heartbeat. Your heart's longing for the experience of God, of a great master that you know of. Peace, joy, love, light, all that's available. But your heart needs to long for that. Something has to reach out. You have to be so thirsty that you won't stop until you get an answer or an experience. That's my faith. I can't help it, but I think we've worked hard for all this. Gurudev said at satsang one time, in the satsang hall, as we saw, he was on the stage in that big chair. He said, even to be in this room, the satsang hall, you have to have done good works in many lifetimes. So we earn our destiny. We earn our destiny. And we're still making our destiny. It comes to us, and we're making new destiny all the time. I'm making what my next life is going to be. It used to be a little scary. I thought, I don't want to be green next time. I don't want to have 5 eyes and a nose that comes out to here. That could be the big thing in the next life. But I don't think I want it that way. See, am I ready to surrender? Not yet, not yet, but I'm always hopeful. I have a little story. At the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C., I used to go sightseeing at least once a year to many of the museums there. I loved it, everything. And I was in the American History Museum, and there is an exhibit there now, but this was in those days, and it was a very teeny exhibit. Now it's quite expanded. I just stumbled upon it, and it was different items that had been given to presidents of the United States. in their personal belongings or gifts to them from other heads of state and in other countries. So you looked around, they're all behind glass, and they have an explanation of who it was to and what it was and the occasion. So you saw what was in, some, not everything, but some of the items in Abraham Lincoln's pockets on the terrible occasion. Eisenhower's golf clubs, the little writing desk that Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. So you're looking, I can say that. If anyone is a celebrity in this room, please come to me afterward and identify yourself, because I will get your autograph and it might be worth something someday on eBay. I'd like to make a lot of money for the ashram. That's an aside. I'm looking at everything because I was gaga over celebrity in those days. I am pretty much over that now, but you can test me. And so I'm looking at everything. Oh, look at that. This is, and you don't know what you're going to see next, but you know it's going to be something outstanding. Came around the room, it's very well lit, but you can't touch anything, just with your eyes. And I came around and there's a door and it has a little window in it. And I saw very dimly lit in there. It's almost dark, but there's something in there. What is that? There's another exhibit in that museum, which is the gowns of first ladies, but it's so dim that you're looking like this, trying to see, because it's going to disturb or destroy the fibers and so forth, the light and the heat from the light. So you can hardly see it anyway, but I thought, whoa, this must really be something behind this glass. What is it? And I put my nose right up to the glass and I looked in, I see something bright red. What is that? It was the fire extinguisher. So, what is the point of what I just said? I know there must be one. Let's see now. What is real and what is not real? That should be the question. Whatever I think, say, or do should bring me closer to what? Permanent peace and happiness or temporary? Okay? Super Bowl tomorrow night. Temporary happiness or depression, depending on who you were for and who won. Now, the refreshments, if you'll be here at Yogaville, I know they have good ones. And temporary, permanent. What do you want? What do you want? Whatever I think, say, or do should bring me closer to, and you get to decide. Permanent, temporary. Permanent, temporary. How many lifetimes have I been going permanent, temporary, permanent? I think I'm getting closer to permanent because nothing else is worth it. Nothing else is worth it. I know what I want this time, and I won't stop till I get it. And what else? If I do this, if I think this, if I say this, if I go there, buy that, eat that, or not, will it bring some good to someone, including myself, and no harm to anyone? Till I know who or what God is, I can start that way. Start with something. So every day is an adventure. You wake up in the morning, I can't wait till tomorrow to practice this. You wake up in the morning, and before you go to sleep at night, this is what I wish to have accomplished in a spiritual sense. There's so many ideas. Do we need to tell you anything? You're seeing shining lights here. You're a shining light yourself. If you don't see that, that's a good thing. To be humble, not to think you're the greatest in the world. You are, but you're not allowed to see it and experience your greatness. Because why? Because you're not here for yourself. You're here for others to serve, as Ganesh was pointing out, Karuna. Faith. Gurudev said on September 11th, don't put your faith in fear, put your faith in God. God knows what to do, when to do, how to do, and where to do, and it's all for good. You may not see the good right away, but ultimately it's all for good. If I had any advice, last advice, anything I wanted you to hear from all my experience and how many zillion lifetimes have I had so far? And I would ask you each to mention something before we close. What would that be that I say? Clock is ticking. This is not a Timex. So I think it'd be easy to, if I threw it on the floor, to break it. I could stop the second hand of the watch, but I can't stop time, no matter what I do. Time is very precious. Make hay while the sun shines. You don't know when it will be like this again. And with faith, you have everything. Without faith, it can be scary. Please, what would you just like to say?
Show God a good time.
What did that mean? Elaborate slightly.
If we're not joyful and really making the best of the time we have here on earth, I think our God is sad. So I want a happy God, and I'm going to do my best to show him that.
Nice, very nice.
I would say, think of others. It's like little 3-word mantra, think of others, and not just do for others, but just before doing comes thinking. So whenever you're around other people, be thinking about them. And at a certain point, you become invisible and float away, you know, in a good way. So that would be my advice.
Thank you both so much. It's terrific. Let's do this again. We'll have a new subject.
All right.
Thank you all.